Hey everybody, Rick Irvin, West Michigan Tech Services, and today in the studio I have Michael from ComForCare.
Hi, Rick. Pleasure to see you. Yeah, Michael Merren, ComForCare Home Care. We provide in-home care for folks to make sure that they are able to live their best life.
Let's go into it. So,
Sure.
what? How is being a priest and in a seminary? How does that translate into elder care?
Yeah. So one of the things that really drove me when I first went into ministry, it was a desire to serve other people, and
Yeah.
that's kind of stuck with me my entire career. I spent 15 years in nonprofits. I worked at Mel Trotter downtown here,
Oh wow.
worked with the homeless population there. I started out, I ran the food service department there. That had been my experience in my undergraduate studies. I actually um, took some time off and went to work full time for the university. So I had a food service background coming into it. But I wanted to do that in a setting that made some sort of a difference. Working at Mel Trotter gave me an opportunity to serve folks that were underprivileged, suffering, and it set the stage. Later, I started working with the community outreach program there at Mel Trotter and ran the um, pantry in addition to the food service department. So
Okay.
we had a focus on providing folks with the groceries that they needed to sustain their families, supplement, when they had shortfalls in their income or in government benefits, things like that. So um, my next stop after that was in Kentwood. I took a job at was what what was at the time John Knox Presbyterian Church. There was a community food pantry there that was founded by John Knox, along with about nine other churches in the area, and they had operated the pantry out of that church's basement for roughly 35
Oh
years.
wow.
And when I came to them, they were at a bit of a crossroads. The church, like a lot of other churches, was getting smaller. They'd gone from probably 450 families at the high point to maybe 400 members at that time. And then over the course of the first year that I was there, it was apparent that there was a bit of a faction going on, and the church actually split. And so, as the church got smaller, what do you do with the ministry of 35 years that is in a big building, 35, 40,000 square feet of building that is now occupied by 40 parishioners.
Mm.
So it got to be a bit of a challenge. And so I was tasked with doing um, the legwork and getting the pantry set up as its own nonprofit entity. So we did that right around that time. I think it was around 2011, 2012. And the pantry, as we became a separate nonprofit from the church, still felt very drawn to serving the community and making sure that we had a community outreach in that Kentwood area. The population in Kentwood has changed dramatically over the last 20 years. I'm sure you know a lot of immigrants there, lots of new populations of folks moving in.
Hmm.
Um, Probably the second largest population after those individuals are senior citizens, mostly women that live in the homes that they and their husbands built maybe in the 50s or 60s. Husbands passed away 20 or 30 years ago. Kids all moved away, went to college, got jobs. They live somewhere else.
Mm.
There's a huge population there of seniors that their only source of income was Social Security. So they had their homes, Social Security, and they were basically trying to make ends meet with property taxes and gas bills, electric bills, things like that, and making really hard choices between their medical care, prescriptions,
Yeah.
and food. And
Yeah.
it got to be such a heavy issue. It was really playing on my heart. We got together with the commodities program and Meals on Wheels, and we got the ball rolling there for a senior food pantry, focusing exclusively on those seniors and doing an extra giveaway of those commodities items for seniors as well. So I was seeing firsthand this population that just really didn't have options, and because of their financial situations, were really struggling. Their health was poor, a lot of them, and they weren't able to make good decisions in order to make that work. So I started looking at those needs. Pretty active in senior advocacy, seeing what we could do to help those seniors. But at the same time, I'd been 15 years at that point in nonprofit work, and I was getting really burnout. If you've ever known anybody that works in nonprofits, they're kind of all consuming. You're exhausting yourself in service,
Mm.
and what I found was that I really tired of waking up every day and asking people for money. It's hard. It tugs at your heartstrings and hurts when things don't go the way that you want them to, and when populations are underserved. So at some point, I decided I was going to get the pantry on its feet, separate from the church entity and from the community of donors there that were its staple for so many years. Get them on a track where they could be financially stable on their own, apply for grants, do those kind of things, possibly make a move into another location because church having a looming closing date. And thankfully, it played out really well. The timing was good. And I decided to start looking at what my next chapter was going to look like. And I wanted it to serve that population in particular. So
Wow.
um, I have I had at the time a business partner. We were friends for many years, and we were sitting around at a Thanksgiving dinner, I think, at my house, his family and my family, and several other family members there. And both of us were kind of at a point where we were really exhausted by what we were doing, kind of burning out in our current jobs.
Was he also in nonprofit?
He was in business to business sales, and the model for a lot of those type of sales
Ah,
changed as well about that time.
sure,
So
sure.
he was in an industry where it was, in the next when the next machine came out, you sold it to the people, you kept a relationship with them, and they upgraded, and they were your clients, for many years.
Yeah.
And the model started to change then to, um, we're going to take your leads when you bring in a new client, and we're going to farm it out to a call center, and they're going to call and make those sales. And
Hmm.
so he was losing the ability to maintain relationships
Okay.
in a business to business setting, and it wasn't working for him.
Yeah.
So we were both kind of tired at the same time and started looking at what we might do, and looked at restaurants, franchised pizza places, the usual stuff that people look at, and I just wasn't seeing it. It wasn't catching my attention.
Okay.
Didn't pull at my heartstrings, as you would say. And at some point, his father had dementia, and it was starting to become more and more of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And he had been in the JCs, and he had a friend that was in the home care business in Texas. And so he reached out to him, got some information for kind of what to do about his dad. And this friend of his mentioned to him that he thought he would be really good at home care, starting a home care company. So the two of us looked at it for a few months. We had settled on a different company, not ComForCare, and had paperwork in place, had done all the research. We were looking for a location, hiring a nurse, that kind of stuff. And at the time, I reached out to a friend of mine, someone who I had met when our kids were little and they were in dance together. And This contact of mine, this friend, she worked for the owner of ComForCare. And I started to ask her some questions. This was back in 2016 about, the industry and what things looked like. And she said, "Let me talk to my boss and make sure it's okay for me to talk to you about these things," and said, "Sure." She came back to me a couple days later and she said, "Well, I talked to my boss. My boss is really interested in selling her business and getting out of the business. She had some needs with her child. She had a child that had some special needs and needed more attention
Okay.
than she was able to give him with the work that she was doing."
Mhm.
And initially, my business partner and I at the time we looked at it. He said, "No, we don't want to do this. This isn't where we're going to go." But I did a little more digging, a little more attention, and met the owner of the franchise group at the time. And he kind of told me his story of starting ComForCare when his own mother was sick.
Mm.
And he had been a GM in finance and was just really kind of trying to put together his own team to take care of his mother. And he figured out, I'm doing this anyway. I might as well just start a company to do this. And he did, just with his own mother's care team. And then it grew into a couple of offices. And then he franchised. And now there are 225, 230 offices across the United States
Wow.
and Canada. Yeah. Started in Michigan, Bloomfield Hills area. And
Huh.
so our office in Grand Rapids was one of the first franchised offices. So um, we have the whole territory of Kent County here and some of the surrounding area. Probably one of the largest franchised territories in the company.
Okay. So about the services that you
Yeah.
guys provide, uh, elder care,
Hmm.
as in you go to their house and help them make sure the prescriptions are all lined up for the week. I mean,
Yep.
tell me a little bit about what it is that you guys do.
Sure. Yeah. Eh, just like it sounds, in home care is what we do for the most part. We do work in a few facilities. We can take care of individuals if they are in a facility, like an independent living facility or even assisted living or skilled center. We've done some work alongside folks even in the hospital, but mostly, I'd say 98% of the time, we're talking about providing care in someone's home.
Okay.
And the kind of care that we provide is what's called non-skilled. Doesn't mean that there's no skill involved. It's just not skilled in the sense of a nursing trade, for
Okay.
example. So we do
S-
cooking, cleaning, med reminders,
Okay.
bathing, personal care, those types of things.
Okay.
And we specialize in a couple of areas. We work very closely with hospice agencies. So we do a lot of respite work
Oh, okay.
for folks that are also on hospice. When an individual is in an end of life situation, whether that's days or months away, the needs a lot of times are greater than what the family can provide. And I think one of the things that people don't realize when they bring hospice on, hospice is great and they do wonderful things. They provide some excellent services. Some provide more services than others. They have some funding outside of the Medicare program for chaplains and pet therapy and all kinds of fun stuff that really helps out with that transition. But most of the time, when you're talking about hospice services, you're talking about a few hours a week. You have a nurse that comes usually once, maybe twice a week for about an hour. A lot of times they'll have a bath aide that comes in and helps to get that person a bath maybe once or twice, maybe three times a week, depending. So in total, you're probably looking at 4 hours a week of hospice care.
Okay.
Um, what do you do for the other 20 hours a day?
Right.
And making up that schedule with family members can be difficult, especially if family lives out of state
Yeah.
or if they're part of that sandwich generation. They have kids of their own, and now they're taking care of an adult parent.
Mm.
These adult children of seniors really struggle with trying to balance everything. It's a bit of a juggling act. So that's where we come in, and we can do as little as a couple of hours, once or twice a week, to as much as 24/7. With the hospice cases that we do a lot of overnights. So
Oh, wow.
If you're not rested, it's hard to have the kind of exchanges with that loved one during the day that you would like to have, that you'd like to remember,
Mhm.
especially if it's an end of life situation.
Yeah.
You don't want to be frustrated and tired when you're dealing with the last days of a loved one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that kind of respite work, hospice work we do, and then the dementia care that we provide, it really varies. A lot of folks need just a check in, somebody to stop by, make sure everything's running smoothly. Maybe that's a couple times a week, maybe that's once a week. And then as dementia progresses, it becomes more and more difficult for an individual to live independently.
Yeah.
Um, and our seniors are strong individuals. A lot of these folks have been very independent for a very long time. Even in their 80s and 90s, they want to remain independent.
Of course.
Yeah, they want to stay in their homes and as much as that's possible. And in order to make that happen, some of the things that you would normally do for yourself might become more difficult, and it would be a good idea to bring someone in to
It
help.
just becomes harder. Yeah,
Yeah.
we have a somebody in the family right
Mhm.
now who has a tendency to put stuff in the microwave or put stuff on the stove, and
Forget about
it
it.
gets forgotten
Yeah.
about, and it's not until somebody sees smoke that
Yeah.
it's time. And it's unfortunate, and
Yeah.
your heart goes out to them because
Mhm.
they've been so independent. They're our parents, they're our aunts, our uncles,
Yeah.
they're people who
Grandparents.
we've
Yeah.
looked at all these years with
Yeah.
respect and dignity, and we want them to still have that, but
Yeah.
it's so hard to see that and then make time, and it's sad to say it this way, but make time in our busy lives to take care of them, that
Yeah.
it just makes sense to bring in somebody like you and your service, and your good, strong, big-hearted people
Yeah.
to help them out,
Yeah.
just maintain that dignity of being on their own still.
Yeah, and that's what it's all about. Giving them the amount of independence that they can be afforded. You know
Yeah,
what they can manage. Sometimes folks get to a point where they can't be left alone for very long or
right.
at all. But that's usually pretty late in the game, and most of the time, folks can get by with a lot less than that. They don't need to go somewhere where somebody is able to watch them 24/7. They just need some help here and there. Med reminders is a big one, and so we do a lot of that.
So maybe safe to say the stages between maybe losing the loved one and they
Mhm.
just need somebody there to help out,
Yeah.
even at the beginning, just even if it is just an older elderly couple
Mhm.
and not just one person,
Right.
they've reached an age where just doing the moder or the everyday tasks are too
Yeah.
difficult, and then there's memory issues, and
Yeah.
as their children and whatnot, we just want to make sure that they're okay and safe, and
Absolutely.
I mean, that's when we need to call you guys
Yeah.
in
It'd be much better if we were able to help out a little early on
early
than
on.
later. Yeah. What I find is a lot of times we're getting called in when there's already been an emergency.
Yeah.
Folks struggle as they get older with some tasks that seem pretty normal, and everyday to you and I. But if you think about where do a lot of people have their laundry? If they have a basement, the washer and dryer
Oh,
are in the basement,
yeah.
right? You've got a house with a rickety set of stairs, a railing that's probably about 16 inches below
Right.
what code is because that's when it was built. And you have a senior citizen who's got issues with their gait, struggles, putting one foot in front of the other sometimes in the right way. And now they're going up and down stairs with 20 pounds of laundry, and
Yeah.
it's scary. There are things that they shouldn't be doing, that we don't want them to have to do.
So if I'm someone out in the world and I recognize the fact that I have somebody that I care about,
Yeah.
I know they need help.
Yep.
How do I start the process with you? How
Yeah.
do I mean, I'm already concerned. I mean, it's hard enough nowadays to afford my car insurance and my own groceries and
Yeah.
my rent or my mortgage. How do I start the process with you,
Yeah.
and how do I pay?
Yeah. So one of the good things about my office, we for as many payors as there are, we've done our homework and tried to get involved so that we can accept payment from them. So
Okay.
we work with the Medicaid waiver program, which is a income based program. A lot of folks, when they get to be a certain age, start to qualify for that because they don't have the financial resources.
And that's based upon the senior's income and
Hmm.
not my income
Correct.
as the child.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
we've taken care of seniors who lived with a loved one, um, and the senior qualified for Medicaid waiver, but the loved one they were living with lived in a gated community. I mean, it's all based on
Okay.
the individual, the senior's
So
income.
I don't have to be afraid to call.
You don't have to be afraid to call. They're not
Okay.
going to scrupularize your income. It's the seniors. We also work with the PACE program, which is a blended resource Medicare Medicaid program. They're all inclusive. They start kind of nuts and bolts. They provide you with a physician, a pharmacy, a chaplain, social worker. They have a day center, and then they do nursing visits and in home care.
Okay.
The idea is that you'll stay in your home as long as that's safe. And it's one of these programs that I think these days you would probably call it like a um, nursing home at home or skilled facility at home, where it's meant to be more affordable, less of a cost for Medicare and Medicaid as well, because they're utilizing a property or an existing structure that you already have and have paid for. So
Okay.
that's the idea there. We also work with the VA, so any veterans that qualify,
Oh,
and
wow.
there are a
Good.
couple of different ways that program works. They have a community care program, which is pretty straightforward. It's in-home care. We're the supplier of that care. They're the payer. And there's another program called Aid in Attendance, where the individual who's receiving the care pays for it, but then the VA reimburses based on a percentage of what they can afford or can't afford. So
Okay.
those two programs are probably the biggest VA programs that are out there. We also work with long-term care insurance. If your loved one was in a position in the 90s, early 2000s to have invested in a long-term care insurance policy, a lot of folks did that, and now they're able to utilize that for in-home care as well.
That's good.
So yeah, those are all good opportunities for the care being paid for by someone else,
Okay.
basically at this point. Unfortunately, the Medicare program hasn't quite gotten to that point where they see the value of in-home care yet, or at the very least, if they see the value of it, they're not supporting it financially. There's one program that's kind of rolling out. It was supposed to have started last year in July, called the Guide Program. And it's for folks with a standard Medicare policy, not one of the Advantage plans. If they have a standard policy and they have dementia, that individual qualifies for respite care up to 80 hours to use over the course of the year, basically. So the loved one, whether that's a spouse or a child of the individual, can call up an agency like ours to go in and provide a few hours of respite service,
Hmm.
so give them a break so that they can get away, go do grocery shopping, go to a book club, that kind of thing, recuperate a little bit. There are some other things available as well. There's a respite certificate program. Senior Neighbors, I think, is the clearinghouse for that. I know that the contact that I have is at Area Agency on Aging. They give 12 24-hour respite certificates to folks based on need. It's not based on income. So it's not necessarily something that you have to be financially destitute to qualify for. So
Okay.
that's out there as well. The majority of people, though, I think find themselves in a place where um, they probably are going to have to pay for some of it out of pocket, and
Hmm.
that's when it does become a bit of a burden on the individual or on the family. Hopefully, the individual has had an opportunity in their life to do some saving, have some retirement funds, things like that, And then it's a matter of kind of scheduling out that care as little as necessary at first, and then as need progresses to do more. If you were to get 4 or 5 hours of care a couple of times a week, you're talking about a couple of $100. That's a big difference between that and moving into, say, a assisted living facility at
Right.
five, six,
Right.
7,000,
Per
dollars
month.
per month, or up to
Yeah.
10,000. One of the other things that I really like to talk about, though, caregivers, family caregivers, the individuals like yourself or
Mhm.
your wife or another family member taking care of that loved one,
Yeah.
um, they're going to burn out as well
Yeah.
if they don't get some time to take care of themselves. So we provide those kind of respite shifts for folks. We want the caregivers to be able to take care of themselves and to continue to have the relationship with that loved one that they want, rather than have any sort of resentment or exhaustion when they're dealing with that individual. So it's important to us to work with folks and make sure that they are getting the breaks that they need.
Right.
So I usually recommend to folks maybe a 3 or 4 hour shift at least once or twice a week, so that that loved one can get a break. Um, Go to the movies, go to the
That's
library,
a
do
great,
something. So
great idea. Just
yeah,
take some time for yourself.
absolutely. Because if you aren't taking care of yourself, you can't take care of a loved one. I've seen it a number of times where, in couples in particular, the woman is in really good health initially when she first starts taking care of her spouse who's struggling a lot of times with dementia. Um, that individual with dementia exhausts the healthy spouse to the point where their own health is compromised.
Mhm.
I've had two cases where relatively healthy, otherwise, spouse passed away before the client because of exhaustion. They,
Oh, man.
caused stroke, heart attack,
Right.
whatever it might be, immunocompromised situation. They get pneumonia. So I always talk with folks and talk to them about not putting themselves in a place where they're going to hurt themselves helping their loved one. Sometimes folks feel a little guilty about bringing someone in to help, and there's no reason for that. We
No.
all need a little bit of help from time to time, especially as we're aging. It's just natural.
Sure.
So I try to help people to understand that when you're dealing with a family caregiver, someone like yourself or your wife, and you're dealing with that loved one, sometimes it's hard to convince that individual that they could really use the help. And there comes a point where you've had the conversation with someone like me. You know what's out there, you know what's available, but the loved one doesn't want the care, doesn't want to do it. We can do this in a non invasive way. We can come in and provide some care that gives you the dignity to make your own decisions. We're not thinking of you as an invalid. We're looking at how can we help you to stay independent? How can we help you to stay healthy, happy, and safe here in your home and give your daughter a bit of peace of mind?
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
So
great.
those are the kind of conversations that I like to come in and have with the seniors. So
Right.
as a third party, as someone from the outside, I'm not a big salesy guy. I'm not going to go in and sell them on care that they don't need. I just want to make sure that they're happy and that they're safe. If what's going to make them happiest is that they're staying home, how can we make that happen? What can we do to help you so that you're able to stay in your home
Right.
as long as possible? So,
That's great.
yeah,
That's great.
that's what we do.
All right.
Yeah, peace of mind. That's what we're looking for.
Well, thanks, Johnny.